All right, part two. Welcome back. So I'm going to go through the challenges that we're met with in this particular essay project, or what we're trying to accomplish with this. So for this essay project, we are challenged to write an essay with a coherent and purposeful structure and organization that resists the limiting nature of the 5-paragraph essay. So we want to make sure that we are not falling back into the familiar kind of habits that of the 5-paragraph essay. We're resisting that limiting nature and moving beyond and showing the sophistication of our thoughts and ideas by expanding and moving past that basic format. We're challenged to puzzle through confusing or interesting ideas and concepts to push the limits of our thinking, seeking to use writing as a way of learning for us. So this is why it's important that you choose a topic that you genuinely care about, so that you can use this process as a way of learning for you and to puzzle through things that might be confusing, so that you seek better understanding or greater understanding of those things. We're challenged to cite at least 8 relevant and credible texts, 5 of which must come from the library's online databases. So by the time you submit your polished draft, you need to have a total of 8 sources, and of those 8, 5 of them, at least 5 of them, need to come from the library's online databases. You can have more than 5, but you should not have fewer than 5. We're challenged to incorporate textual evidence from our selected sources, integrating quotations effectively, using signal phrases to introduce quotations, and providing context for our readers. So, in other words, we want to make sure that we are weaving our quotations into our writing so that they fit. And so we're attaching those quotations to our writing by using signal phrases. If you need a refresher on what a signal phrase is, you can return or review the integrating quotations document that I introduced earlier in the semester. And we want to make sure that we provide context or background information for our quotation so that our readers can understand what the quotation refers to. In many cases, your readers may not have read all of the sources that you're quoting from, so it's important that you're filling them in. You're setting the quotations up so that it makes sense to your readers. We're challenged to put our sources into conversation with our own ideas. How can we synthesize these different sources with our own ideas? So this word synthesize means to combine in such a way that creates something new. So with our sources, we want to take bits and pieces from these different sources, the ideas and quotations that we choose to include, and connect them to one another, and also add our own perspective and understanding into that conversation. So that's what we mean by putting them into conversation. We're showing how they're all connected, and we're synthesizing those connections to be able to come up with a new idea. And ultimately, that new idea is the main point that we're exploring in our paper. We're challenged to think about our audience and our purpose for writing this. What's our rhetorical situation? How does this influence the way we approach our essay? Remember that our tone should be invitational, not confrontational. So we want to think about our audience, who comprises our audience, what types of readers are we anticipating, what are their expectations, how can we meet those expectations or even surpass those expectations. So we want to keep that in mind. Who is our audience? And there are a lot of different possibilities for that. Yes, me, I'm your most direct audience member, but you also want to envision a broader audience than that. So what are the expectations of those members of your audience as well? And what is your purpose? Why are you writing this? What are you trying to accomplish with this essay? So we want to keep those things in mind, and that will influence the way that we're constructing this paper. And remember, we're not trying to persuade or convince anybody that we are right. Rather, we're just trying to share our perspective based on our research. So based on all of this research, here's what I think about this and why. That's essentially what you're doing. So remember, you want to have an invitational tone, meaning you're inviting your reader to come along with you, versus confrontational, which usually ends up happening when we're trying to prove that we're right about something. We're challenged to write more than 12 purposeful and organized paragraphs. So we want to make sure that we are thinking about paragraphs, how we're using paragraphs to separate our ideas, and using them as an organizational strategy. So we need to have more than 12, so at least 13 or more. All right. So think consciously about how you're breaking your paragraphs apart. Each paragraph should focus on a main idea. So how are you structuring these different paragraphs, and how do they fit together as a whole? We're challenged to create a purposeful title that alludes to the focus of our essay and follows the title: subtitle format. So I will have a document that explains what this means, the title: subtitle format, but it's just an academic convention of titling, how we title our essays in an academic setting. So we want to practice that. We want to make sure that our title is purposeful, it's creative, and it alludes or hints at the main focus of our essay. So somebody can read our title and get a general sense of what the paper is going to focus on. We're challenged to show ownership and pride over our work, taking care to eliminate major or distracting spelling, grammatical, and typographical errors. So I'll continue to remind us that the work that we put into the world is a representation of who we are as people, right? Whether we like that fact or not. So it's important that the work that we produce is going to be a good representation. So we want to show ownership, that we take care of our work, and that we're proud of the work that we put into it, and we want to make sure that it's a good representation of that work that we put into it, right? So paying attention to that. And then finally, we're challenged to format our essays according to MLA guidelines. So it should be 12-point Times New Roman font, double-spaced, the entire document, no extra spaces between paragraphs or anything along those lines. The entire document is double-spaced. 1-inch margins on all 4 sides, so top, bottom, left, right, only 1 inch, not bigger than an inch. And we want to have a properly formatted works cited page, and this is especially important in an essay where we're working with many sources. So in this case, at least 8 sources. We need to make sure that we're citing them properly and including them in a works cited page. And of course, there's resources. I've posted resources, and I'll remind you of those resources for MLA. So keep an eye out for that, or stay tuned for that. Okay, so our due dates are, so as mentioned above, the part of this project, the Major Essay Project 3, is what we call an annotated bibliography. And there's going to be a separate video for the annotated bibliography, so take a look at that. Make sure that you watch that video and you understand what this part of the prompt means. So the first annotated bibliography, where we'll have 2 sources, is due Sunday the 25th of April by 11:59 p.m. through Canvas. The second part of the annotated bibliography, you'll have 2 additional sources, and that's due Sunday, May 2nd on Canvas by midnight. The first draft of Major Essay Project 3 is due Sunday, May 9th, and that will be at least 3 full pages in length through Canvas by 11:59 p.m. Draft 2 is due Sunday, May 16th, and that will be at least 6 full pages in length via Canvas by 11:59 p.m. And then the polished draft is due Saturday, May 22nd, at least 8 full pages in length through Canvas by 11:59 p.m. And the same case with the cover letter. Now you might be wondering, why Saturday? Isn't it usually Sunday? Usually it is, but Saturday is literally the very last day of our semester, meaning that Canvas will no longer allow you to submit any work after Saturday the 22nd. So that's why it's imperative that you get it in by the deadline, because once the clock strikes 12, it's going to lock and you won't be able to submit anything. And I have no control over that. So just make sure that you're aware of that, and you're making the arrangements to get this in on time so that you're not locked out. Okay, so for this major essay project, and this has been the case with all of the major essay projects, you must submit all components by expected deadlines in order for this project to be considered complete. If you cannot meet an expected deadline for any one of these components. Refer to the project deadlines and submissions policy in the syllabus. So it's really important that you are submitting each of these components. You can't neglect to submit one of them and expect the project to be considered complete. So in order for Major Essay Project 3 to be considered complete, you must submit the first annotated bibliography, you must submit the second annotated bibliography, you must submit draft 1, you must submit draft 2, and you must submit the polished draft followed by your cover letter. So all 6 of these components must be submitted in order for this project to be considered complete. Otherwise, it is considered incomplete, and that's not something we want. So, additional note, in our writing, we are encouraged to embrace confusion and contend with complexity. Approach your essay with these attitudes in mind. Rather than showing your reader what you already know, try to show your reader how you worked your way through something that you didn't already know. You're not trying to prove that you're right about something. Use your writing as a way of learning for you. So this goes back to what I was mentioning earlier, or in the first video. We're not trying to convince anybody that our perspective is right. We're not trying to persuade our readers that they should think like we think. Rather, we're just showing our, in our essay, we're showing how we came to greater understanding on a particular issue or topic, right? So we're essentially sharing what we learned for our readers. And if it's constructed well, then a reader could discern for themselves if it's a worthy perspective to hold, right? So that's where your focus should be, trying to make sure that you're explaining your ideas clearly and in a compelling way. But you're not trying to persuade anybody. You're just trying to show them your perspective. All right, everyone. If you have any questions, just let me know. Be sure to watch the annotated bibliography video as well to make sure that you're aware of that component of this particular essay project.